Welcome to the Studio Success Formula Podcast, the business school for dance studio owners. And now for your host, Clint Salter.
Hey everyone, it's Clint Salter from Studio Success Formula, and welcome to today's episode. Now, if you're listening to the audio, we've also got a video for this episode, very special episode with two very special guests. Now, that's right, I've got two people today. I usually only have one, but these two are a powerhouse. They're a husband and wife team who run a studio, been running their studio for nearly 30 years. Plus, they're also really passionate about educating dance studio owners on how to become more profitable, how to make have a more fulfilling studio through their website, Dance Teachers Web. So please welcome the lovely Angela and Steve to our episode today. Hey guys, how you going?
How are you?
Good,
We're having
Clint.
a wonderful time.
Yes, great to be here.
Excellent. Really, really great to have you. And I'm even more excited because I get to meet you in person in August when I come over to speak at your event in Connecticut, Dance Teacher Web Live. So that's going to be really cool. And I wanted to get you on today so that you could share some of your experiences and wisdom. I'm sure you've learned a thing or two over the past, 28 years running your dance studio that you can share with our audience today.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. Lots of ups and downs along the way. We've learned from the school of hard knocks, as they say. But here's the plan. If you do have a plan, things really can go extremely smooth for any studio owner. But the key is to have a plan.
Yes, that's so important. To keep things going and to keep the calm waters.
When do the waters stay calm, Angela? When do the waters stay calm?
The studio owner's like a duck. On the surface it's all calm, and underneath you're pedaling like crazy.
You're pedaling like crazy, and there's lots of sharks, which are the parents.
Exactly.
I'd love to start by just getting a little bit of background on both of you, how you got into this crazy dance world, how you met each other, and built this studio up.
Well, I'll start it off. I started dancing when I was 3, and I lived in Hong Kong for some years. My parents lived there for 20 years, and then I went to arts educational in England, and I studied with some fabulous people. I got scholarships then to the States, to Martha Graham and mathematics, and so I continued on, and then I started working, and I met my lovely husband. I was choreographing a TV special in Florida, and the lead dancer, who was going to do all the lifts and everything, broke his foot the day he was supposed to come down, and I called desperately to New York, and they said, we have just the person, and that's how we met.
Wow.
Exactly. And yes, my background's a little bit more of dance and sports. I played American football, baseball growing up, and I also danced. So I was the ultimate kind of jock who also danced as well. And more I was getting called to dance, and living so close to New York. I grew up in Connecticut, about 45 minutes outside of New York City. I started to train more and more. I told my parents I was going to try full time. I had their full support. I was fortunate enough to get that. My first job actually was with Angie as the choreographer. My teacher, Charles Kelly in New York, recommended me, and the rest is history, as they say.
We formed an Adagio act, and we traveled all over the world doing that for how many years?
12 years. And then we had the opportunity to buy my former teacher's studio, Mickey Williams, here in Connecticut. And we bought it, and 28 years later, we are still the proud owners of a dance studio.
Wow. I love that story. I mean, how has it been working together as a duo, having a romantic relationship, a marriage, plus also running a business together? Because there's lots of studio owners that do it. I mean, how do you manage that?
It's not easy. We haven't killed each other yet.
No, I was going to say it's a good start. You both came to the interview today, not just one of you.
But I think the key is because we always work together. So for us, it was always that way. But I think it helps in a way because you have to get over any bad feelings quickly, in order to get on with business the next day. So I think in a lot of ways it's good. We're very close. And
and we have the same likes. I know a lot of people, studio owners that we coach ourselves. One of the challenges that the wives have is that they come home and they dump all of this studios, drama on their husbands, and the husbands are like, I've had my own day of work. I really don't want to have to rehash all of this.
Absolutely.
So it can be hard. So we try to leave the studio in the studio, although doesn't always happen, and have our private lives be our private lives.
Yeah, and I think it's important. I always talk to our members about, have date nights with your partner, with your husband or your wife. And I always say, they always say, Clint, my husband doesn't understand what I'm going through or how this parent or student leaving has affected me. I'm like, stop going to them. After 20 years, they're not going to change. Find that support somewhere else. And that's why, we obviously have our group, and you've got a great community, and there's so many great communities you can be a part of now, with people that understand what you're going through. So great that you've got each other, and I'm glad to hear that you try and leave your personal lives, in the house and then studio at the studio.
Absolutely. And, Steve always laughs at me because I always say we got to have balance.
Yeah, that's Angie's
Balance.
word, balance.
Isn't that $1 million word? Balance. I mean, it's a great concept in theory, isn't it?
It is.
Look, I guess with you two today, what I'd really love to discuss, because it's a conversation that has come up for many, many years with the studio owners that I've worked with, and that's about having a really successful front desk, having really engaged staff at the front desk. Not those people that, pick up the phone and sound like someone's just taken their child or something, like, hey, come this time. You know what I mean? Like, we want people, I call them the director of first impressions. They are the people that they're the first people that new parents see and students. They're the first people your teachers see when they come in to take their classes. I mean, what qualities, if we start at the first base, what qualities should we be looking for in a reception staff member or a front office staff member? What are some of those things that we need to keep our eye on for? And how do we recruit for that person? I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on that.
Well, I think first and foremost, that person at the front desk has to be really good at sales, because that's really where it all begins. And sales happens all the time, whether you have a new student who's coming in, a prospective client, or someone that's been with you for years and years and years. There's always a selling process that goes on. A lot of studio owners are under the impression that once somebody is their student, that's it, they can stop selling to them. But that's not the way it works. And that person at the front desk also has to be a people person, because, like you said, they are really your first line. They are the face of your business. They are the voice of your business. And I would be very careful who I put there, because I know some studio owners maybe would put a family member or a friend. And, that's not to belittle their family member or friend who may be a wonderful, wonderful person, but they may not get it as far as how to work that front desk. And I'll tell you, it takes a lot of effort, and it takes a lot of time and training to get that person to be able to really be comfortable at that front desk and know how to sell your program. So I think number one would be sales. The person has to be good at sales. And number two, the person has to be a people person. What do you think, Ann?
I agree. And I think, when I'm trained, I always train the front desk people. And I always say to them, it's that smile is the most important thing. You have to smile when people come in, when they leave, and when you answer the phone. And somehow, even answering the phone, that smile comes through to people. And the other thing the front desk person has to do is not talk too much. Let the customer do the talking and find out really what they're looking for, and then just guide them in the right direction. And I think that's really, really important, is to listen carefully and help them. But, in the end, they think they've made the decision. Actually, you made the decision, but they think they made the decision, and they feel great about that, And I just think having that nice personality.
Yeah, that person has to be welcoming. We've had the opportunity to go and teach master classes at studios literally all over the world, from Hong Kong to Spain to England, through South America, Canada, all throughout the United States. And it's amazing how when you walk into the studio, how much energy is set by that person behind the front desk. Yes. You just walk in, and immediately the studio owner could be this wonderful person, but if the person behind that front desk doesn't radiate that energy or match that energy, then it's a problem.
Yes, it is. And it has to also reflect who you are as a business owner. They have to feel that same, well, they're not going to feel exactly the same passion, but they have to understand your passion, and they have to know your programs really well. They have to really believe in it.
That's great. That's great advice. So if we were, say if there's a listener at the moment who's going through a stage where they need to get a new front desk member on board, maybe someone's left or they're taking that next step of removing themselves a bit from the admin side of having a studio. I mean, what are some things that they could do in the interview process, maybe a phone interview before or during a trial period to kind of work out if that person's going to work for them as much as we can?
Well, I like to actually have phone conversations with the person if I'm hiring them and try them out before I hire them and ask them the kind of questions that people ask, and see what their response is, see what their automatic response is. And if I feel they've got some talent there, they're workable, So it's looking for that person who, it is a sales position, but it's not a hard sell position. They're
not selling a car.
No. Thank you.
But even with that, let's face it, if you have a good salesperson who's selling a car, they make that whole process seamless and beautiful. And you actually are excited because they take the focus off of things that maybe the consumer would consider important, like maybe price, and they get you to focus on something more important, like the luxury of the car, the way the car performs. And same thing with dance. When the person comes in and the first thing they ask about is price, that front desk person needs to know how to navigate. So I think, like Angie said, it's very important through that interview process to see how that person reacts also to maybe questions and how they can maybe react kind of at the spur of the moment as well, because a lot of that behind the front desk questions are going to pop up, and you have to see how they're going to respond to those quick questions. So I think through the interview process, asking questions like that and just seeing what kind of a personality, 99.9% of the time, I believe, especially as a business owner, your gut feeling is right. And if you think that person, for whatever reason, if you have any doubt, don't hire the person, because as they say, you should always be slow to hire and quick to fire, because you want to make sure you get the right person. And this person may be the most important person you hire, not the faculty person, but this person.
Yeah, I'm totally on the same page and completely agree with you there. Now, you talked about the phone, picking up the phone. What are some of the mistakes that you see front desk staff make when they're on the phone to a potential, client, potential new parent or student?
Well, I find mostly it's too much talk. And I've developed over the years, a system really where you can ask the prospective client certain questions, but you have to listen to and then it's just a matter of getting them in through the door. Because once you get them in through the door, if you have a good product, the rest is easy, and of course it's not easy because you have to keep doing it, but never ending. But I think it's really listening and then guiding and being aware and able to do those two things. Some
years ago, we put together a script, and it's a soft script for our front desk to follow. And it's just an outline. And we told them, when we first presented this to them, they were a little bit like, really? And we were like, look, you don't have to say this verbatim, but we want this to be like a flow chart for you, to be able to ask the right questions and to have the experience the same, because we have 3 different people who man our front desk. Now, they have 3 very distinct personalities, but what we want to try to do is when someone calls in, for the experience to be at least the same with our first person as it was with person number 3. So when somebody calls in, they're like, oh, well, I don't like really talking to that person because they don't know what's going on. So that's a challenging part. So you got to keep training people and working it so that everybody's on the same page. And I think what Angie said a little bit earlier is so very important as far as phone etiquette. Smile when you answer the phone. And I know at first when we told them that, many years ago, they looked at us and were like, what? We were like, smile when you answer the phone. The sound of your voice is completely different. You sound welcoming. If you say to somebody, thank you for calling. How can I help you? With a smile on your face, the person on the other end of the phone really, really can feel it.
Yes.
They just can.
Absolutely. And, one other thing that I think is really important is making sure you as a business owner gives the front desk all the information that they need. If you're having a certain special or you're doing a show or whatever, the tickets are going on sale, whatever it is, that they are really aware of it and able to give the right answers so that they also feel comfortable from that standpoint.
Yeah, I love that point. I love the point about smiling. I mean, research, lots of research tells us that we should smile when we answer the phone, or all the studies around body language as well. And so totally with you on there. I love, Ange, what you just mentioned about, keeping those front desk staff really across what's going on, because I've been in so many studios where the front desk, like, I didn't know we were doing Bring a Friend Week, or I didn't know the costumes. Why are these people coming to give me money for costumes? I didn't know the costumes. And it's so that there's that disconnecting communication. I mean, they really are your other arm, your right arm. And so we talk a lot about, using technology like Asana or Trello, some of these kind of project management places, so that there's a centralized place to have all of that communication. I'd love to know how you make that communication with your reception staff and office staff as seamless as possible.
Well, first of all, we have a meeting every Monday morning. And the people that can't attend that get a whole breakdown of what happened at the meeting and what's going on for that week. So we're always ahead, and we discuss other things that are coming up also.
And wait, let me just interject one thing. In case some of you are saying, "Oh, great, I don't have time to do a whole meeting and go through that." These are not 2-hour long meetings where we're droning on about stuff. We believe in the 20-minute principle. Let's have a 20-minute meeting. Let's get it out. Let's figure out what's going on. Let's build an agenda for the week and move on to the next thing. So go ahead.
Absolutely. And, that helps so much, because we also have a book at the front desk, and the person who's going home that day, if they've started a conversation with somebody, or they're in the process of registering, or whatever is sort of in an ongoing process, or if they're expecting a phone call in, all that's documented. So the next person comes in, when that person calls and says, "Oh, I was, talking to the front desk," they know exactly what it's about. And I think that's so important, and it keeps everything flowing smoothly and seamlessly, and makes the person at the front desk feel comfortable. And if they feel comfortable, they'll do a better job, And
we tried adding a little technology to it where we were sending texts, but not all of our people at the front desk. One of them was a little bit older, and she's a wonderful person, but she wasn't really all that versed in technology. So we were like, let's just make it old school. Keep it simple, not complicated. Just create a journal and let just people write in it, and that's their first thing when they come in. They look at that journal, they see what's happening, and then like Angie said,
they can write notes for the next person. And each week we post behind the desk a list of everything that's coming up for that week, so that in case people forget, because they get busy, and we all do.
Yeah,
we all do. We all forget things, but it sounds like you've put some really solid systems in place and procedures, so that people, like a checklist, they come in and they go, right, we check the journal, we report back, we then do that, we then do that. I mean, there's
makes it easier.
Yeah. And I love, Steve, you talked about the consistency of that, picking up the phone and having that similar experience. I always liken it to, a McDonald's cheeseburger. I mean, because it tastes the same as it does in Sydney as when I go to New York. The cheeseburger tastes the same. Not that I eat too many of them, but it tastes the same. So it's that consistent process that you want. So every time they come to you, they're getting the same, effectively, the same experience as much as possible, which I think is really important.
Yeah, and I have to tell you, that's challenging. It's not easy. You have to constantly be on it. it's not something where you can kind of set it and forget it. There are going to be hiccups, believe me. Nothing is smooth sailing all the way. We have some bumps along the way, even after 28 years. So nothing is absolutely foolproof, and you shouldn't expect to just set something in motion and say, okay, well, I don't understand why things went wrong. Things happen along the way. People are involved. Mistakes happen along the way. So you should anticipate that mistakes will happen, but then you just learn and figure out, hey, we need to do a better way of communicating. And the big word there is just communicating. Yeah. And it's tricky nowadays because there's so many tools for people to communicate, yet people are it's so much harder to communicate with people because they're bombarded with communication,
Yeah, right. I always say we've never been more connected yet disconnected at the same time, because there's, we get text messages now and Facebook messages and emails and apps sending us notifications and everything else. But we're so busy trying to keep up with things that when we've never been more disconnected, and that's why I love the phone, picking up the phone or having a meeting, I mean, who would have thought? It's great that we can still kind of meet in person.
Yeah. Well, and I have to say, I'm a firm believer in the human contact. I think that really makes a huge difference. And, especially in our business, because people are entrusting their children with us.
Totally.
And often we see them more than they do. So, especially the more serious ones. So that human communication and human touch is so important.
Yes, it is.
I love it. I think it's great. Now, Steve, you touched on, sales, having a salesperson at your front desk. And I know that you love kind of teaching studio owners about, upselling, and you talked about, once they're in the door, that's only part of the job. And then you've got the opportunity to maybe sell them merchandise or, get them into a ballet class if they're only doing jazz or something like that. I mean, what are some tips you can give our listeners around upselling to maybe potential students, but then also to our current students so that we can increase the revenue in those other income streams?
This is the one single thing that I would say for any studio owner. If you do nothing else, even if you don't get new students, you can increase your revenues just by focusing on educating and upselling your customers. And when people hear upsell, a lot of times they think about, maybe a bad thought like, that's cheapening or somehow not doing, something right with what I do. But it's really very simple. And the process is just that parents nowadays, on the whole, are bombarded like we were talking about, and they walk in the door, whether they're a current client or a new client, and they don't even know what the heck is going on. They're looking for your guidance. They want to know, hey, their kid loved their ballet class. A lot of them may not even know, surprisingly enough, that you also do jazz, tap, ballet, modern, contemporary, Afro jazz, musical theater. Maybe you have a vocal program, anything that you have, unless you position it and tell them, hey, look, did you realize that right after that ballet class, the same age bracket is also doing a jazz and a tap? And then all of a sudden the penny drops and they think, wow, I can get rid of my kid for 3 hours, and have them in a wholesome environment. And they love that ballet. They love the ballet, so why wouldn't they love a tap and a jazz after? Angie, we always laugh because she is the queen of the upsell. So many people walk in the front door and they have their registration form filled out for one class, and they rip that up, and all of a sudden they're doing 4 classes, and they thank Angie as they're walking out the front door because they're so thrilled that somebody took the time to educate them. And this is something where, I always caution studio owners to be cautious about online registration. I think it's fine for your younger kids programs because those are kind of, very templated and somebody who's doing a preschool class is going to do that. But it's hard online to upsell somebody to take more classes. They'll just go in and hit XYZ. But Angie's always, I call her the queen of the upsell at the studio.
the queen of the upsell. Look, Angie, there's a book in that. There's a TV show. I see it going all over the world. The queen of the upsell, Angie. Angie, what's your take? Tell us what your secret sauce is.
Well, I think my secret sauce is I just tell them the truth. But I do it in a way that I show them how their child would benefit, because it's all about, we have two customers, the child and the teacher, and the parent. And so it's making them understand, look, your kid's doing great in taking one ballet class a week, but she'd do so much better and be so much stronger if she took 2 a week. And then, the jazz and the tap are the next steps. And she really likes musical theater. Perhaps vocal would be a great idea too. And, I just encourage them to try it. And we have actually free class trials. And we also, during the year, we have 1 week where halfway through the class, they jump into another class. So they're taking classes they've never taken before. And it's just done in a fun atmosphere. But it works very well because it breaks the ice for something that perhaps they would have been afraid of trying, And we encourage that, because even if they're going to be dancers, the broader the training, the better, even if they want to be classical dancers, especially nowadays. All the ballet companies are looking for people who can do more than one thing, Yeah.
But even the recreational kids, the number one thing that parents want is for their child is to see some advancement, whether they're recreation, whether they're pre-professional, competition kids, it doesn't really matter. Whatever they're into, right. People want to see advancement. And if you can show the parents, hey, look, your child has advanced from A to B, but for them to go from B to C and D and expedite it, then the best way to do that is to take some additional classes. So the strategy here is to just have it very well planned out, and so that when people come in, who's ever going to be handling the registration, again, if this front desk person or if it's a studio owner or maybe a combination of everyone involved, is to put together a strategy of when someone comes in, they're taking one class, try to show them where they can take another. And if they're taking 2, show them where they can do 3. And if they're taking 3, show them where they could do 4. We worked with a studio owner down in West Virginia. Just this one strategy alone, she increased her revenues by 50% in not getting one new student. Yeah. So think about it. If you can increase your revenues and not increase your expenses, that's pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you want to. That's what you want to be doing. And I think here, what's coming across, which I love, is build these relationships. Spend time with your customers, get to know them. So, like you said, I'm just honest with them. I lay out the path for them and say, look, little Susie's loving this. We do this, and this is how it will benefit them. And fantastic. But I think so many studio owners are like, I don't want to talk to the parents. Like they're in, and sometimes they're just like in the office and they shut the door and they lock themselves in. And it sounds like both of you are really involved, and you have a focus on building these relationships, which is, I'm assuming, why you've been so successful.
Well, I think relationships are key, with the student and with the parents, and for a studio owner with your staff and faculty. Those relationships, you want to build them. You don't want people moving in and out all the time. You want to build long-standing relationships because that's how you're going to be successful, and that's how you're going to make money. And some people think making money is not a great thing, but I'm all in favor of it personally.
Yeah,
been starving artists.
No, and I mean, you put so much, and we talk about money blocks a lot, like with our members as well, because it's you deserve to be paid. You're putting a lot of time and energy into these people that you love. Why is it that we can't love what we do and get paid really well for it?
Well, I think, and that's such a big key to if you're upselling your program. If you don't believe in what you're doing, and you think that if you don't believe your program's fantastic and that it's affecting the kids' lives in a positive way, then I say you need to look at your program and see about how you can fix it so that you feel more confident about it. Now, not everybody's a people person. Not everybody likes to get out there and talk. Well, then it's even more important that front desk person is really a good salesperson and is able to portray this, because you need somebody out front who's going to work this. It's great if the studio owner can do it, but if they're a little bit more shy and reserved, then get a person who's going to run your front desk that can work that front desk like crazy. And that's going to be the key there.
Yeah, I love it. I love everything that you're saying. And I love that we get to bounce, there's three of us, so we all get to kind of bounce around ideas, which is really fun. With our office staff, we know now with email, phone calls, they're juggling lots of balls in the air, as well as dealing with parents and students and teachers coming in. I mean, how do you structure this type of role so that you can get the most out of them and keep them productive and working efficiently and effectively within the studio?
It's tricky. I mean, it's a never-ending challenge. And I have to be honest with you, the strategy we used 5 years ago is antiquated. And every year things evolve and we find better ways to do it. The number one thing that we have is a hot list, and that's any kind of burning issues that are happening. So if a parent comes in, somebody's mad, somebody needs to be resolved, what we try to do is we push those to the front of the line, because nobody wants to wait forever and ever. But having said that, there are certain times that we handle those issues. And I encourage studio owners not to be like free for issues or problems 24/7. You don't need that. You need to make it so that, okay, between this day, I'm going to deal with these issues and I'm going to work at it, and that I'm going to spend a certain amount of time doing it, and then that's going to be it.
And also, if a parent, sometimes they get angry because their kid's involved, we always make an appointment the following day so that everybody has time to cool down and look at it in a better perspective and turn it around so that the negative becomes a positive. And that really is the key.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times people, they have issues because their kids come home crying or, something's happened. And once they understand what's going on, usually once you talk to them, they're absolutely fine.
Or sometimes the parents had a bad day and the kid comes home and was simpy with them and they say, "What's the matter with you?" "Well, the teacher told me to stretch my foot in ballet." "She told you to do what? God forbid." And she calls the studio and is all mad about something like that. And, it was absolutely nothing. And once the dust, like Angie says, the dust settles, the parent's fine and everything then is resolved. But, again, I encourage studio owners, don't be available. Like when you finish your class at 9:00 at night and some parent calls you and they want to talk to you, your front desk is also your first line of defense. The front desk has strict orders to, okay, Steve and Angie love to meet with you. They're available tomorrow at 11. They have our times blocked out when we're available for meetings. We're available at 2. Whatever the time may be, that's when those people, your customers, can come in and see you. You're not available 24 hours a day, because the last thing you want to do is be dealing with some kind of issue at 10:00 at night. There's one person that we coach in our program. She was on the phone until 12:00 at night. When she told me that, I was so mad at her. I said, "How did you let somebody do that?" We have nothing if we don't have our time. Our time is our most precious asset. We can't get that back if we lose it. So we cannot let our parents, even though they're our customers, we cannot let them rob us of our most precious asset, which is our time.
Well,
so our front desk has to be that line of defense.
I mean, in no other business would that happen. So,
no. Try to call your landscaper or, somebody and tell them you're mad about the way they cut the lawn at 11:00 at night. They come over and throw rocks at your window or something,
Exactly. I love that. Similar situation with me and one of our clients, but they were at 10:30 at night and they got into like a texting war. And I was like, "What are you doing?" Like, I wanted the final text. And I was like, "Wow, you're finished. You're finished for the day when you leave that studio."
And the other thing is, I don't believe in doing things with texting or emails. I think because people can't really feel the right tone.
No, you need to have a conversation. And I loved how you kind of mentioned, Steve, about, the mother might have had a bad day, or they might be fighting with their partner. And I always think that empathy is such an important quality for that front desk person to have, because it's really, I think sometimes as well, it's difficult not to take things personally, for the studio owner as well, and to actually have that skill of being in an empathetic state, putting yourself in their shoes and saying, this is not about me, this is about them. I actually need to just listen. A lot of the time they just want you to listen to them.
Oh, and absolutely.
It's so true,
and
Clint.
Believe me, we find out all kinds of things from our front desk person because they love to chat, and that's great because you can steer clear of a lot of issues when you have that feed of information coming through. But they do it in such a nice way because they listened.
And Clint, what you said is our number one strategy when an angry parent comes in, we sit there and we just say, okay, so what happened? And we just let them talk themselves out of it. After 10 minutes, they're apologizing to us for bringing this to them. And like you said, they just want to get it out. So but you have to be, again, you got to be like a duck with water on your back, and it's just got to roll off. They're going to say a lot of things that could be, look at our businesses. We spend as dance teachers and studio owners, this is our life, We spend so much time. We devote so much of our energy and our love, and we get so involved with our students because we care so much about them. We care about how much they're improving, and we care about their lives. And like Angie said, we spend more time with these kids than their parents do. We spend so much quality time with them. So it's hard when all of a sudden issues come up and parents say things that are hurtful, and it's just them venting, and we can't take it personally. And I know that's easier said than done. But after 28 years of being in the business, that's the number one thing. You want to last. You want to not, go insane and become jaded or bitter. Let it roll off your back and move on.
Yeah. Because, I see a lot of, as probably you do, a lot of studio owners who might have had their studio for 20, 30, 40, 50 years even, and they're not happy. No. Because they've taken so much on board over those many years of personal attacks and haven't been able to let go of so much that's happened to them as a studio owner.
Right. And I think, another important factor is you have to let the people know you're in charge. Once they know you're in charge, they'll come around eventually, even if they have an issue, and they'll at least respect that you're in charge, and you can do it in a nice way. You don't have to sort of be overly overbearing, but just let them know we do it for this reason. We run the studio for this reason. We don't let parents backstage. I just tell them it's a fire hazard.
Of course, yeah.
But it's just, and again, your front desk staff is part of that whole chain of command of how they get to you. And the front desk, who's ever going to work your front desk, has to be, again, very resilient. And again, this is not an easy job, the front desk. It's a very challenging job. That's why I say be very careful who you hire, because that person behind the front desk, some nights, they may get, they're going to get peppered back there. They're going to get hit from this, hit from that, hit from this. And they're going to be like, they have to just keep smiling and answer the phone and keep absolutely they're in the eye of the hurricane, and they are the eye, and all this chaos is swirling around them, but they're absolutely calm.
Yes, and have a sense of humor. You have to have,
of course. Don't you? You always have to laugh. At the end of the day, isn't it nice to sit with your office staff and just have a bit of a laugh about what happened during the day?
Yes, you have to. That's what keeps us all going, really.
Yeah, it keeps us all sane. Now, there might be some listeners who don't have an office staff member. Maybe they're quite new into their studio, so they've been doing it a lot. Maybe we've got listeners who have had their studio for 20, 30, 40 years as well. I mean, what are some things that you see dance studio owners doing themselves that they could be delegating to this office staff member?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think if you don't have a front desk person, you have to invest in this. It's worth the investment. It's worth its weight in gold. You cannot be everywhere. And while you're teaching, if you're the one teaching, who is looking after people coming through the door? Who's answering the phone? It's the most important position, other than yourself. Even
if you hire someone part-time, get somebody in there who can at least give you some assistance. What do you think as far as what help?
Well, I think you have to make sure that now in this day and age, they also have to be computer savvy. They have to be. And even if you're not, they have to be, because everything's done on computers. And if it's not, it needs to be.
And I think everybody has likes and dislikes. Everybody has strengths and weaknesses. I've always been a firm believer in find people who can do the things you don't like and who can do the things you're not very good at, and strengthen the things that you already are good at and like to do, and then get good people around you to do the things that maybe you're not so good at. I know a lot of people are always trying to strengthen maybe things they're not so great at, but to me, there's so many good people out there who can maybe do something that you're not good at. And anything, as a studio owner, anything that's somewhat of, and I say remedial task, and that may sound belittling for somebody else that's going to do it, but if you can find somebody that's going to do something that's just a time waster for you, do it. Now, having said that, as studio owners, we all know sometimes we have to jump in. We have to do an extra class. We have to do this because somebody didn't show up. We have to go and fix this because it's broken, or the toilet won't flush all of a sudden. So now you have to jump in there from time to time. We live by the MIW, make it work, baby. We believe in making it work no matter what. You got to jump in there and do it. But as far as a daily thing of doing, find people, good people, train them, empower them, and then let it go. And otherwise you're going to spend all of your time and energy always in catch-up mode. And even at times, even though we have a great group around us, our plates are very full, and, it still sometimes can be a real challenge. So find ways where you can get people to help you out.
Yeah, I love it. I talk a lot as well about, I call them low value tasks. I don't know whose is worse, yours or mine, but I call them low value tasks, and they're tasks that you might pay someone $10 or $15 an hour, or if you outsource it, maybe $5 an hour to get these tasks done. Whereas you're worth a lot more than that per hour as a studio owner. And so I do this exercise where they do 2 weeks and they kind of go through their diary and all the things they loved and all the things they didn't. And it's really valuable just to get everything down, on paper.
Yes.
How have I spent my day? Because the studio owners have always had those days where we kind of finish the day and go, God, I was busy. And then you go, but what did I actually achieve?
I know. It's so true.
So I love that. Now, kind of to finish up, I mean, if we've got amazing office staff and we want to reward them, we want to show them how much we appreciate, what they're doing for our studio. What are some ways that you reward your staff that not necessarily is financial, but what do you do to, encourage them to say thank you? How do you show them that they're special?
Well, different ways, sometimes we'll just surprise them with a gift card, or, we'll take them out to dinner, or I'm a firm believer in just letting people know they look great,
Yes. And I think again, getting back to smiling, I'll tell you, walking in, every studio owner, when you walk in and that person is behind the front desk, walking up to them, smiling at them, saying, how you doing? How's it going? You having a good day? But listening. And again, people just want to know that they matter. They want to know that you care about them. Yeah. And the energy and the environment of your studio really does start with you as the studio owner. It starts with you because if you radiate out care and that you care about the people that work there, it'll come back. Now, I have to share with you one quick story about a few years back, and maybe 7, 8 years ago, we were hovering between 500 to 600 students. And we were like, you know what, we want to try to get up to 700 students this year. So we made a little thermometer, we put it up on the wall, and we said to our front desk staff, we said, look, we get to 700 students, we're going to take everyone on a 4-day, all expense paid trip to Puerto Rico. Because we thought to ourselves, hey, if we can increase our student base by 150, it's worth a trip to Puerto Rico. Well, they kept filling it up, and we set a time date. I think it was September 30th, and wouldn't you know, they hit it. And we walked in, Angie and I walked in, and they all were standing behind the front desk on this Saturday, and they said, come back here, we want to show you something. And we walked back, and they pointed to it, and they started jumping up and down, and we said, okay, we're going to book the trip. And some people may be thinking, oh, that must have cost a lot. Well, it maybe cost us to $2,000, but it was worth every penny because we had 150 new students generating all of that revenue, and it created such an energy. The only regret is that we didn't set it at 800 because I think they would.
Isn't that always
hit it if we hit it? You know?
Always the way with KPIs, when you put goals in place and you reach it, you go, I could have got that extra.
So set goals for your people. It can be simple goals. Set goals for them. People love trying to hit a target. If you don't have, they don't know what target to hit, they're not going to hit one. So set goals, set targets for them to hit, and then find different ways to reward them.
Yes, and also just constantly make them feel appreciated. When we have the meetings with them, and if they can't come to one meeting, I'll meet separately with them. I always appreciate any ideas they come up with because, no one has all the ideas. And I'm always so appreciative when I say to them, that's a great idea. Thank you so much. It's going to, save us all a lot of time and energy.
Encourage that think tank, that open dialogue. That's really important.
Yeah, because we can't think of everything. We're trying to choreograph. We're trying to create. We're teaching.
Ordering costumes.
The whole deal. So I love getting all the thoughts and ideas from them, and I always try to make them feel really welcome to do that and very appreciative.
And it makes it really kind of builds that family. I'm a big fan of the idea a week that you put in a bucket, and at the end of the month, you kind of pick out the 3 ideas that you'll implement and they get prizes. But it just builds this really nice kind of family, and everyone's invested then in the studio, not just like rocking up, teaching a class, or rocking up, taking the money, or answering the phone. They're part of the bigger picture. And I think that's about creating the vision and then obviously getting that buy-in from the team as well. I love it. I think it's great. Look, I could talk to you guys for, I don't know, days, but I'm glad I get to when I get to come over to Connecticut for your awesome event. Tell us a little bit about the event and where people can get tickets to come and see you guys and me, hopefully.
You definitely.
I'll definitely be there. I'll definitely be there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be August 3rd through the 6th. We're going to be up at Foxwoods Resort in Mashantucket, Connecticut. It's easy to get to by plane, train, car, anything else you can think of, boat, ferry, flying to Providence, Rhode Island. It's going to be really a fantastic event. This resort is a 5-star resort. They just opened up a 50-store Tangier outlet right attached to the casino. There's a historic fishing village 15 minutes away. But the actual event, as far as what's going to take place during it, we are so thrilled. We have an amazing group of people that are going to be coming, master teachers, incredible business people like yourself, Misty Lowen, Robert Landero. We have a great group of people. Angie and I are going to be doing a bunch of seminars as far as dance teachers, Liz Imperio, Wayne Sleep, Aaron Turner. The list goes on and on. I could be go on forever with the faculty. And it's just what the great thing about this event is that dance teachers come together and we share ideas, we network, we talk about things. We've done so many seminars where one teacher will stand up and we do a little think tank session where we have a Q&A, and somebody will stand up and give one idea and everybody's like, oh my God, that's a fantastic idea. If you go to one of these events and you get 2 or 3 real important nuggets, it's that's gold. You know what I mean? It's gold because sometimes the industry we're in is a little bit closed, and that's what I love about what you're doing. And Dance Teacher Web, part of why we started it is because we do want to create a sense where studio owners and dance teachers can learn and grow. Because if we don't, we're all giving all the time. Studio owner, dance teacher, you're all about give. But just like a battery, eventually you can only give for so long if you don't replenish what you're doing. So that's what this event is about. We're really excited. We think it's going to be a fantastic event. This is going to be our 6th year or 7th year? 7th year that we're doing. Lucky number 7. And last year we had over 500 teachers come, and we had teachers from Australia come as far away even as as New Zealand and Malaysia,
Japan, yes.
all across the United States,
Europe.
Canada. Yeah. So we're looking forward to it. It's always a great event, and we're just thrilled to have you on board too as one of the faculty. It's going to be great.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm super excited. It's a 5-star resort. And it's going to be warm as well, because it'll be cold here in Sydney, and then I'll get to jump on the plane and come over and see you guys and be able to sit by the pool or something.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, in our spare time.
In the spare time, maybe like 10 o'clock at night for like 5 minutes or something. Look, it's been so good speaking to you guys. What's the website for the event where people can grab their tickets?
It's danceteacherexpo.com. So www.danceteacherexpo.com.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you. It's been great speaking with you. Thank you for sharing so much. Your 28 years of wisdom and experience around getting that right office person. And I loved your kind of what you said about it is a roller coaster. You know, you will have those great times and those bad times, but have that plan. You know, everyone have a plan in place, because it's going to give you a better opportunity of having success.
Exactly right. Well, Clint, it's been lovely talking to you.
Yeah, exactly. And I loved your idea about that journal too.
Yes.
I love that. I think every studio owner should do that. Take a journal and write down for 2 weeks everything that you do, and figure out really what are those time wasters and things that you can delegate, and then start to figure out a plan to do it. And look at, hey, summer is such a perfect time, because that's a time when a studio owner can kind of sit back and breathe a little bit and really reflect on what took place during the course of the year and what things they can fix. So that's a great tip for people to use right there.
I'm sure the studio owners and teachers, everybody will get a lot out of your seminars. So
yeah, we're looking forward to it.
Can't wait. Really, really great. And look forward to seeing you guys in August. Thank you so much again. Talk soon.
Well, thank you.
Yes, take care now.
Take care. Bye.
Do you have a burning business question for Clint? Are you coming up against a challenge in your studio that you need help with? Go to studiohotseat.com today and record your question for Clint. If you're lucky, Clint will answer your question in an upcoming podcast episode. Get expert help today from someone who works with hundreds of dance studio owners every year. Again, head to studiohotseat.com to record your question for Clint today.